Well, hello, very good evening to you, and welcome to the locker room on this European Champions League special and a very disappointing night for Rangers as they bow out of Europe altogether. With the final score, Ibrox Rangers 1, Ajax Rangers 1, Ajax 3. James Cavanier scored the goal from the penalty spot with about 5 minutes to go in the game. But as you know, Ajax went up the park and scored, and that was a good night for Rangers. But Ajax continue to be in the Europa League. They go down to the Europa League. So, joined tonight by Graham Duffy. Nice to see you back, Graham. I know you were back on Sunday, but I wasn't back. I was passing ships in the night. So good to have you back, mate. Rangers waited 12 years to get back into the Champions League, and it was a big disappointing if you're a Rangers fan, Graham.
They might want to wait 12 more years after this performance. Yeah, massively disappointing. I don't know why, but I thought Rangers might have a chance tonight. I thought after the performance against Aberdeen on Saturday, but I thought they played really well. I thought they maybe had their tails up a little bit. They played well against Aberdeen. Now, whether that was just a really good Aberdeen performance, but I thought Rangers had a chance tonight. And to be fair, the Ibrox crowd were really behind Rangers right for the start. It was a really good atmosphere. And that went very flat early on. As soon as Ajax got that first goal, it was a great move. Down Tavernier's side again. I've said numerous times on here that Tavernier is brilliant going forward. He's absolutely fantastic, but I've never been a massive fan of him defensively. I thought he got cut out again, but it's a really good finish. Kevin Thompson during commentary said if the guy meant that it's a great finish, I think he does. I don't think that's a miss it. I think he does that deliberately. It's a great finish. And then after that, you're thinking this could be a long night for Rangers. And to be fair, again, I thought Rangers got themselves into the game. They had a couple of decent chances. I thought Sakala looked probably their most dangerous threat all night. I thought he was really good. But they didn't create a lot, to be honest. And I always felt that on the break, Ajax looked very dangerous. We get to half time, and Rangers are still in the game. But in the second half, the second goal, did the second goal come in the first half? I actually can't remember what it was. But I mean, the second goal probably does kill it a little bit. And then, Ajax, I just thought Ajax going forward looked very dangerous all game. And I was thinking about this during the game. When you watch these European sides, you watch Ajax, you watch Napoli, you watch Real Madrid and stuff, you watch these European teams, the way they pass and move, it's always first touch, two touch. They don't hold on to the ball for any longer than they have to. You don't get that in Scottish football. Maybe Celtic do it at times. They play one-touch football. But these European teams are just so good on the ball. They're so comfortable on the ball. And then Rangers get that penalty and you think, oh, they've got a chance to get level here. And then, 15 seconds later, Ajax score again. So a disappointing night for Rangers, a disappointing campaign. And they finished the group with no points, 22 goals conceded, 2 goals scored. I don't know what Van Broek is going to take from this campaign, but it's a massive letdown for Rangers.
Yep. Good evening, Dave.
Evening, gents. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. So Rangers bow out of Champions League and European football last season. I was just saying that to Graham. They waited 12 years to get back into European football, and it was a disappointing campaign and a very disappointing performance tonight to end the campaign.
It's been a sobering campaign, hasn't it? I mean, we all looked at this season in anticipation, massive anticipation, just in the aspect of looking to see how Rangers and Celtic were going to get on. Right, expectation-wise, we weren't expecting Rangers to go and do well. And had Rangers put in a valiant effort every game in the Champions League, guys, and be beaten 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, that they gave a good account of themselves against Liverpool, gave a good account of themselves against Napoli, and gave a good account of themselves against Ajax, three sides who are definitely have a higher caliber of player in comparison to Rangers, because of the financial clout surrounding both clubs now. We've obviously got into the Rangers side of things in Scottish football, and that's a totally different subject altogether. But the point is, guys, is that had Rangers had 1, 2, and 3-0 defeats by playing brilliant football and being brilliant and having chances and being resolute defensively and doing everything right in the game and showing resilience, showing a bit of character, showing everything that comes with a game, Rangers fans could take that. It's the fact that they've rolled over against Liverpool. It's the fact that they've produced a poor performance tonight. It's the fact that, well, yes, they've had no win in 6, of course. It's the fact that they got rolled over in Napoli last Wednesday. It's the fact that they were nowhere near to be seen at Ajax. And Ajax side are third. I mean, the fact that Napoli and Liverpool are both tied at 15 points in this group does tell you everything you need to know about the fact that obviously you're up against two fantastic sides, and obviously Napoli and Liverpool. And I've said to Graham a few times now, Michael, that look, this was always going to be a hard task prior to the group Saturday anyway, because obviously when you look at Ajax, they're a formidable force in Champions League football. Maybe not this side that they were 10, 20 years ago, but they're a fantastic side. But there's no other way to put it. It's ultimate embarrassment. Graham, I'm going to clarify a point from your own point of view. Ajax were 2-0 up in the first half. The guy Kudos made it 2-0 to them. Then obviously some bread to the game, wasn't it? Because Tavernier scored in 87 minutes, then Claude Shell made it 3-1 in the game-setting match for Ajax on 89 minutes. But yeah, I think there's a lot of lessons to learn for Rangers. Now, I don't know if you agree. I think there's differences between both Rangers and Celtic just now in terms of, first and foremost, their objective and overall assessment and how both managers will be defined after this. Obviously, we'll get on to Celtic tomorrow night. But I think from a Rangers point of view, I think Giovanni Van Bronckhorst is under more pressure than Ange Postecoglou, which sounds extremely bizarre to say, considering Rangers' proud achievements in getting to Europa League final back in May. It sounds extremely awkward and extremely bizarre to be saying this. But at exactly the same time as well, I think some of the losses they've encountered have been deplorable. And I think Ange just bought himself a bit of time because of how well Celtic have been doing domestically. And I think that's the bottom line here.
Graham, picking up on Dave's point as well, obviously we've got a full hour, so if anybody wants to comment, they can do so on Facebook or YouTube. But I was just, again, Rangers as a first Scottish team to go through the group stages without a point and to become the 22nd team in the history of the Champions League not to get a point. That's embarrassing, not only for Rangers, but Scottish football, you would have to say.
It is. I mean, the group was drawn. You know, it was always going to be a tough group. Napoli, Liverpool and Ajax. Now, a Liverpool side that hasn't been particularly great so far this season. A Napoli side, too, for me, are potential outsiders for this Champions League. I think they're playing some great stuff. They got beat tonight, obviously, by Liverpool, but they were both through anyway. It didn't really matter. And an Ajax side, too, again, I think at times they played some decent football this season as well. So they were up against it right for the start, Rangers, in this group. It was a very difficult group. But I think Dave's right. You know, the level of the performances hasn't been good enough. You know, the absolute capitulation at Ibrox against Liverpool, where they were 1-0 up, you know, then it's 1-1, and then they get absolutely obliterated second half. That shouldn't happen. And the performances have not been good enough. Tonight, I don't actually think they played that badly tonight. You know, they had a few moments in the game, but they didn't take, you know, the few chances that came their way. And as I said, I think certain players in that Rangers team can look at themselves tonight and think, I played well, i.e. Sakala. I thought Malik Tomer had a decent game, but, you know, they just, at this level at the moment, just don't look quite good enough for this stage. And to go 6 group games without even picking up 1 point, it isn't great. And, you know, at the start of the season, we talked about it and we said it's great for Scottish football that we've got 3 Scottish teams in group stage football and we're all out before Halloween's even just after Halloween's finished. It's not a great look. And there's a lot needs to be done next season. But I think Dave's right again in terms of Celtic. I think Postecoglou has brought himself plenty of time for performances. And I think if you look at the performances from Celtic in the Champions League, I know we'll get to this tomorrow, but in every game, they've been competitive. They've played some really good stuff. Rangers haven't really done that, though.
I think it's back to Dave's point early on, and I know you've made it tonight, Dave, but I'm sure you'll make it again. And this is what the point I was trying to make with Josh when he was on the show. The comparisons are Celtic and Rangers, and I know if you're a Celtic fan or else if you're a Rangers fan, they don't like lumping the two together, but they're the two biggest teams in Scotland. But you can't really compare the two because not to do with money. Well, some of it could give you money, but a lot of it could do with the player recruitment and all that. And I'm just looking on Twitter, Dave, and on Twitter, it's trending Ross Wilson. So Ross Wilson's got to get it as well. And don't forget the Rangers AGM's coming up in December, so that's going to be a very interesting AGM.
Yeah, well, Josh kind of made the point, didn't he, last week, Michael, that I think Ross Wilson will have a lot of questions to answer when the AGM comes along, because when the AGM does come along, I mean, Ross Wilson will be under a lot of pressure, and I think a lot of the questions will be directed more towards him, because I think Josh made some really, really good points when he was speaking last week about the financial differences, not in terms of Rangers in comparison to other clubs, but in terms of how Rangers haven't been backed very, very well in the transfer market, or how Giovanni has been backed very, very well. I mean, they've signed a £5 million left back who quite simply is injury prone in Yilmaz, and they picked a bit of an injury on Saturday, of course. And yeah, Rangers are just all over the place. Is disarray a valid word? Are they disarray? It's an interesting question to raise. I think they're a club that have potential. Of course they do. They're one of the biggest clubs in Scottish football. At the same time as well, I do question, are they a club in disarray? Because prior to Saturday against Aberdeen, it was curtains for Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, wasn't it? I mean, Rangers had a lot of dirty laundry, and had it not been for Aberdeen, for Rangers winning in the manner that it did against a very good Aberdeen side with me on Saturday, I think that would have been it for Van Bronckhorst. So, but well, I'm not. This question isn't about Van Bronckhorst, and we're getting a bit sidetracked here. This is about Ross Wilson, and I think a lot of the questions need to come his way, because ultimately the manager just put the team out in the park, and that's all fine and well. The players have to do the manager's tactics and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, do you guys know this, or you guys are in football, and you should know this? Ultimately, the guy makes the decisions about recruitment, and the guy makes the decisions about signings is Ross Wilson. I mean, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, obviously, look at footage of Manila's good in the ball, intelligent, all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, it's Ross Wilson's decisions, and Ross Wilson will know everything that happens. He's like the encyclopedia of Rangers Football Club. He'll know everything that's going on.
Graham, if you were a Rangers fan going to Ibrox tonight, you might have feared the worst, but ideally you would be hoping that Rangers would put in an okay performance tonight. And they never done that at all. Okay, you can argue the point that Ajax has a good team and all that, but you know, there wasn't any fight there. I think the only fight from a Rangers point of view was Sakala going in with some tackles during the game, but and obviously Arfield with a shot in the second half. But in terms of that was it for Rangers tonight.
Yeah, I think, you know, they lost the first goal against Aberdeen on Saturday, but they came back and managed to win the game comfortably. Tonight, they lost the first goal against a really good Ajax side, and I genuinely thought after that, this could be a long night for Rangers. But I said earlier, they got themselves back in the game. You know, I thought they started to get a bit of a foothold in the game. You know, I really like Alvarez in that midfield for Ajax. He's a real quality player. And again, up front, they look really dangerous going forward. But Rangers didn't really get... I mean, Stephen Davis tried to get on the ball, but again, I've just mentioned it 5 minutes ago. You look at these top European sides, they pass, move, 1-2 touch. There's always a player on the ball. There's always somebody moving into space. You look at Rangers tonight, there wasn't really a lot of that. I mean, it took 12 minutes for Ryan Kent to get his first touch. And again, we spoke about Ryan Kent at the weekend. I thought he was great against Aberdeen. Tonight, he didn't really get on the ball enough. I think Rangers' only real threat, as I said earlier, was Fasher Sakala. I thought he was excellent, and I did think Tillman played well as well. I would disagree that there wasn't any fight in Rangers tonight. I thought there was. I thought there was more fight than I've seen for a while. They just look really vulnerable at the back, though, every time Ajax came forward. I mean, Ajax had a disallowed goal. They probably could have scored a couple more in that first half. So it's just you're going up a level, and you've really got to be able to compete against these types of teams. But as I say, I go back to it. You talk about money. Yes, that's an issue. But you just look at the way that these European teams are set up and the way that they pass and move. It's a completely different level. And Rangers at the moment are not quite up to that yet.
I suppose, Dave, when Graham's talking there about money, I suppose it brings me back to the Ajax model where they had, years ago, and I think they would still have the model. I'm not kind of like clued up in that football, but it's not all to do with money yet, would you say?
Hello, Davy Martindale. Not bad yourself. I think you were asked David Martindale that question in front of his face. I think he'd be told where to go. He'd be told to. I'm not going to say it on live and telly, but he'd be told where to go. I mean, there is a difference between Rangers and obviously the European nations. That's been found out. I mean, the fact that Rangers hardly spent any money to pursue their Champions ambitions is pitiful, to say the least. And I mean, they were nowhere near the financial cultures of Liverpool, Napoli, and Ajax. And they didn't have the quality of either of those sides either, which is incredibly disappointing. But at the same time as well, Rangers are this sandwich in the middle, if you understand what I mean. It's like putting a ham into a sandwich where they're right in the middle. You can't do anything about it. You've got Rangers that are Celtic's exactly the same way, but you've got Rangers that are battling a European financial gulf where they're basically the underdogs, they're basically the lightweights and all this. But then they're massive heavyweights when it comes to comparing themselves with Livingston, St Mirren, Hibs, Hearts, Aberdeen, Livingston. Well, I've mentioned Livingston already, but they're massive. Ross County, they're massive heavyweights. Sorry, when it comes to that, and that's the thing. Although it might not be the best possible outcome for the rest of the clubs domestically, I think it'd be a good thing for Rangers and Celtic as well, but predominantly Rangers, if they had a bit more financial quiet about them in order to go and compete in the Champions League. I mean, we've all seen Scottish sides in the past, Henrik Larsson's Celtic sides in particular, under Martin O'Neill, where they were formidable domestically. They were also formidable in Europe, right? There was a difference there, right? Every side feared playing Celtic. And I'm not just talking about the Scottish Premiership sides either. I talked about the Liverpools back in 2002 here. They were afraid to play Celtic. There's Sutton, Hearts, and Larsson, Petrov, Alan Thompson, all these players. Now, the game's totally different now. But, I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody in Scottish football wouldn't be given two flying hinges if we've seen a Rangers and Celtic side that were formidable domestically, also formidable in Europe as well. Are we seeing that? Not really. And in terms of Celtic, they're obviously best rest right now. And it's going to be an interesting title race. And with both of them being out of Europe, I might be a bit premature with this, but with both of them out of Europe, it's going to make for an interesting title race because they've got nothing else to prioritise now.
Graham, I don't know if anybody can help me here, but if you have seen a flying hinge, you can let me know because I've never saw one before. But yeah, that's a new one on me, Dave. So yeah, keep them coming, keep your jokes coming as well. But Graham, I'm just going back to the game tonight. I'm just watching the chances about my Redders missed. I mean, would that sum up Rangers' campaign? Because, I mean, if that was last season or maybe in the league, that was a goal. But how did you miss that chance?
you know what? We're going to get both Rangers and Celtic competing in European football very quickly when Graham Souness gets his wish to merge the stadiums. That was a laugh, wasn't it? No, I mean, that was a really bad miss. And I'd expected him to score that. I think anybody would. It's a really poor miss, but it kind of sums up Rangers and probably sums up Morelos as well at the moment. He just doesn't look that kind of. He's not got that clinical touch just now. But I mean, I don't want to be horrible here, right? But if Scott Wright is the answer, what's the question? I mean, if you're bringing Scott Wright off the bench, I mean, he's no Champions League level. Let's be honest. I thought Rabbi Matondo.
You can say Ibrox. You can say Ibrox. Thank you very much.
I mean, Rabbi Matondo had a bit of pace when he came on and obviously won the penalty. But I mean, Rangers overall just they don't look quite ready for this Champions League at the moment. And listen, probably Celtic at times don't either. Let's be honest. They're playing against top quality teams, but Rangers tonight just. I mean, you're looking at that Morelos chance and thinking, I think Stevie Wonder could have scored that. It was a gilt-edged chance. And it might have got Rangers back in the game. You never know. But as I said, they get the penalty from Tavernier, and then about 15 seconds later, Ajax go and kill the game off. So it's just been a very poor campaign for Rangers. Disappointing night tonight. And they need to stop conceding goals because that's proven a big thing for them.
I want to go back to Dave's point, right? Because he made an excellent point. And again, we spoke to Josh the other week on the show. I think it was the Napoli game that Josh was on, and we were making a point about the money and strength and gets now. I would imagine that if Rangers had the money, they would go out to buy 2 or 3 players in the last year of the window, and because Leon King is in the squad now, and okay that the ball take a deflection off him for the second goal. I can't remember, but I'm sure he wouldn't be anywhere near that first team score, Dave.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a massive. I don't know if you guys seen it last night. There was a riot in Dundee last night, right? But there was also a massive riot in Glasgow as well, and that's Rangers. Massively disappointed. And do you guys know they're the worst ever team in Champions League history?
Yep.
Hearts haven't played in that yet.
It'd be interesting. I mean, you look at Club Brugge. Club Brugge is a great parallel or a great benchmark to this here. They're in the Champions League group with Porto, who are a formidable Champions League side, Atletico Madrid, and Bayer Leverkusen, and they've came through that with second, right? Atletico Madrid are out of Champions League, right? And they're an established Champions League side. Let's be honest, they reach finals. They're much better than what other Champions League sides could do. They probably have a better Champions League record than Man City, if I can be brutally honest about it. Yet they've crashed out this year. Why? Because Club Brugge are a magnificent group. So for Rangers, they could argue on paper they're a bigger club than Club Brugge. But where's the proof in the pudding? It's simply not there.
Graham, it's going to be a laughing stock to the rest of Scottish, to the rest of European football that you had the so-called 2 big teams in European football from Scotland anyway, Celtic and Rangers, and they, not one of them's won a game.
No, but again, you look at the teams they're competing against. They are competing against top teams, and it is difficult. That Rangers group was going to be hard, and Celtic's group is difficult as well. Real Madrid, Shakhtar, and Leipzig in it. They're difficult groups, but what you want to do is you want to be competitive. If you're going to get beat, as Dave has mentioned numerous times, if you're going to get beat, it's how you lose. Be competitive. And I think Rangers haven't been as competitive as I think Celtic have been. You look back at that first game against Real Madrid. I said at the time, Celtic in that first half played some really good stuff against Madrid. They just weren't clinical. And I think I rattled off the stat last week. Celtic had 68 attempts and only scored, I think it's 2 or 3 goals. Rangers haven't had anywhere near that. So that's where Celtic problem's been. Rangers just haven't. they haven't done enough in this Champions League, and you can take it all the way back to that Liverpool game, as I keep going back to. When you're at 1-0 up and you get back to 1-1, that second half, you're thinking, right, what have Rangers got here? And then they fall apart. You know, if you lose 2 or 3-1, fair enough. To lose 7-1 is horrendous. And of course, you've got the shock jocks on Talk Sport and stuff giving it loudly about, Scottish football's a Mickey Mouse league. You know, that doesn't help. But it's not been a great campaign. And, you know, next season, assuming that Celtic and Rangers get back to the Champions League again, which I think they probably will, you know, how are they going to turn that? How are they going to turn the tables? Because it's not been good enough. But as I keep on going back to, Celtic, for me, have actually competed in most of the games this season, whereas Rangers really haven't.
Dave, is it not a bit worrying if you're a Rangers fan? Maybe, hopefully, you're not watching this, and when I'm saying this, they're going to be chucking things at your laptop or your phone. But is it not worrying because, okay, Graham's right there, Celtic, you know, had a lot of shots at goal, still never won a game. But can you remember? Right, gotta ask you guys a question. That can you remember that when you come on here after the game and say, yeah, Rangers had about five brilliant shots at goal, but not scored any. But compare that to kind of like Celtic, and you've got to be in these areas to make a chance, basically to put the ball in the net. And okay, Celtic never done that, but at least they were in the right place to, you know, put the ball in the pocket. And obviously it never happened, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the issues, I think, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of why Rangers simply haven't done well in Europe this year, because quite simply they haven't had their forward line best structured. I mean, I don't know if you guys agree, right? I'll get on to another point in just a minute. I'm going to raise me a bit. But Ellis has been ill-disciplined, has had his troubles to seek. Joe Archer is decent enough, but is only a penalty box striker. Arfield's decent enough, Ryan Jack decent enough, Lundstrom decent enough, but let's be honest, have they hit the heights of last season? Not at all. The question I want to ask you guys, and I think it's a very good point to make, does Ryan Kent flatter to deceive? Because for me, he does. For me, he'll do well against Aberdeen. He'll do well against the Hearts of Hibs, but he'll struggle whenever it comes to Champions League European football. He had a real good season in Europe. His first season under Gerrard. I remember he got a goal against Braga and he was very much in form. See, Champions League wise, he's flattered to deceive, in my honest opinion, since.
Yeah, I'd agree with that completely, and I think probably as Josh Rushiri would say the same thing. I think he has. I think I've pointed Kent out a few times and said I really like him, but the last few games he's not done enough. As you say, in Scottish football, he's going to look a very good player, but against proper teams, Champions League teams, he hasn't done enough. Again tonight, I thought it was very pudding tonight. And to be honest, I completely forgot that Cholak was playing tonight because he really didn't get any service. And this is a guy that scored 14 goals for Rangers this season. I think, as I keep saying, the only positive for me tonight would have been, I've just forgotten his name, Sakala. I thought he was really good. He was the only outlet Rangers had. But Ryan Kent has been a massive disappointment. And I'm just going to, there's a quote here. Just going to get it from James Tavernier, who says, the Champions League has been a learning curve for Rangers. It's obviously tough to take. You want to finish the final game, especially with a positive result. We couldn't do that, but we need to take it on our stride going forward and we'll come back stronger. It's the final details when you're playing against this quality of opposition. If you switch off for 2 seconds, they'll punish you. We will learn from this. It was a proud moment for all of us coming to this competition. We haven't done ourselves justice. We haven't given the fans more of what they wanted, and we'll own up to that and apologise. We have to be better. We never want to be beaten. We're a club known for winning games and trophies. We haven't met the mark. So that's James Tavernier at BT Sport after the game.
Can I make another good point? Rangers have paid every fan. Rangers have wanted fans to pay £180 to watch three fantastic sides train, haven't they?
Pretty much.
Somebody just raised that on Twitter.
I just want to raise a point as well. I don't know if you guys agree with this, right? It's a point that's been made on Sportssound that I've just looked at here. So Richard Foster says, the team that I watch play the Europa League final, it's night and day in terms of the intensity, the quality. And then he says Rangers look lost. Is that a fair point? Do Rangers look lost?
Well, they were playing at Ibrox.
The structure. Mike, on you go.
No, I was going to say they were playing at Ibrox tonight, so I don't think they were lost. But
lost in the structure.
No, I know. In all seriousness, yeah, I do. And going back to your comment that you made earlier on, Graham, about Kent, and sorry, Dave, you've made that comment about Kent as well. I think he's been very disappointing in Europe and in domestic football this season as well. He's not been the same player as when they came in when they stopped Celtic doing the 10 in a row. But no, he's not been the same player. But sorry, Dave, I know you were going to make a comment about your pal Ritzik Forska there.
No, I was just going to say that the lost in their structure just now, Rangers. I mean, last season they were renowned for getting big results, getting big performances, and getting over the line in some games. But this season, it's been incredibly disappointing. And where do we go? I think William Balgin's a bigger miss than what people perceive it to be. Because you look at Rangers defensively, they're all over the place. That was epitomised when. Excuse me. That was epitomised. When Rangers went to Celtic and got beat 4-0. That was epitomised because Rangers were all over the place defensively, and also they've been found out a couple of times against sides with lower calibre in comparison. Rangers, Mullow in particular. Who else was there? Sorry, was Hibs obviously scored 2 goals against them and obviously opened them up. And I mean, they're all over the place. For me, I know there's 3 games left until the World Cup for the teams. I think it's a massive 3-game window for Rangers to see where they're at, to see if Giovanni Van Bronckhorst is on board with players, also to see if there's a vice versa in terms of does Giovanni Van Bronckhorst have confidence in the players? Because if Rangers don't win their next 3 games, and let's say, for example, the draw 2, win 1, or draw 2, lose 1, or win 1, lose 1, draw 1, it would sound to me as though there's a confidence loss, yes, but also it would sound as though there's something far more deeper than people are perceiving it to be.
Dave actually makes a really good point defensively there about Rangers. And if I'm a Rangers fan, I know you touched on this earlier on, Michael. If I'm a Rangers fan and I'm watching Calvin Bassett tonight, the strength, the pace, he brought the ball out, he looked composed. That's what Rangers badly lack at the back, because I thought Bassett was very good tonight.
But again, I think that's back to the financial side of things. And I know Rangers got a big pay packet even for selling Bassey. But I want to come back to the point Dave made there about, I know we said at the top of the show about the fans would be on the back of Ross Wilson. Why did they not spend money, right? That's fair enough. They never spent money. In fact, they never brought a player in the last day of the window, right? But do you think that the team is not playing for Van Bronckhorst now as well? Because I've made this point several times on the show, guys, over the weeks. Van Bronckhorst can work with their players in the training ground, but as soon as they cross that white line on the Saturday or whatever the case may be, tonight's or Tuesday night in the Champions League, he can't do anything. It's up to the team. And to me, I think the team's not kind of like for the playing to potential fighting for the ball. Am I being a bit harsh, Graham, when I say that, or?
Well, I'll tell you that in a second, but I'll give you Van Bronckhorst's quotes here. He just spoke to BT Sport. It started well with 2 good ties against Union and PSV to qualify for the Champions League. But after playing 6 games, you can see the difference in level. That's why it's very difficult for us to get results. You know the gap is there, but we don't want to concede so many goals. We struggled against teams of the highest quality. It's a big learning experience for us. I've competed in this competition. I won this competition, so I know the other side. Now I face the side of the team who is not on the same level yet, and we struggled with that. Liverpool, Napoli, Ajax are teams who are operating in this league for years now, and that's been hard for us. Of course, we want to be involved again next year, but then we have to be better. It's been hard. Those are facts.
Dave, I know Graham might have a comment to say about that. I've got a comment to say, 1 or 2 comments I've got here than that. Would you agree with Van Bronckhorst's quotes there?
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference in level. I mean, let's be honest. Rangers were up against it European-wise before the group stages, weren't they? Because USG needed an insurmountable comeback at Ibrox in order to rescue the tie, didn't it, against USG? And then against PSV, fair play, fantastic performance in both legs in that question, but you had the feeling that the writing was on the wall immediately. And has that been rectified, or has things changed heading to the Champions League? Well, the proof's in the pudding. No, it hasn't. And for me, there's a lot of questions for Rangers fans to go and ask. That AGM in December, as you mentioned, Michael, probably it's going to be very interesting. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the terminology of the question, but also it's going to be interesting to see how the whole dialogue is approached from a fan perspective, but also from the football club or Ross Wilson's perspective. I mean, Ross Wilson is renowned for being a top what's the right word, director or board member or head of football operations.
And don't forget they've got John Park there as well, Dave.
John Parker, yeah.
Yeah.
They've got him as well, of course, and I think he'll get a lot of scrutiny when the meeting comes along as well. But I mean, Ross Wilson's worked. Well, he started off in Falkirk, didn't he? He got a lot of praise for the work he did at Southampton. But then you're one bad spell at a football club away from obliteration, and Ross Wilson needs to remember that, because one bad spell at a football club, and people don't want you involved in football. That's the bottom line here, and that's got to be a little bit concerning for Ross Wilson, because I mean there's a lot that he's done right, but at exactly the same time, a lot of people are going to look back at this and say, whose fault is it, Van Bronckhorst's or Ross Wilson's? I think if we're going to be honest, I think it's the latter.
Oh yeah, Graham, you can't blame Van Bronckhorst for this kind of mess, if you want to call it a mess. But what did you think of Van Bronckhorst's comments there?
I mean, I think they were reasonably fair, but I just think, I mean, it's mental that this Rangers side were in a European final last season, and now they can't even get the group and they got no points. It's mental how quickly things can change, and you know, there's absolutely no doubt recruitment's not been good enough. You know, I don't want to mention him because he's an ex-Hearts player, but I'm going to. John Souttar comes in. He plays against Rangers in the final game of the season in the Cup. And, you know, he plays okay. He goes to Rangers, has a couple of games, and then he gets injured and we don't see him again. That's been a huge thing for Rangers. They just can't get John Souttar fit. And the recruitment's not been good enough. They've sold some decent players. They probably could have got rid of a few more that aren't doing enough for me. I won't say who, but Scott Wright. But I just think that Rangers team at the moment they're not good enough for this level, and Van Bronckhorst probably knows that. Now, we spoke about, I think it was after the Liverpool game, you're seeing things on Twitter about Van Bronckhorst has got to go. He needs to go. He's horrendous. And this is a guy that had Rangers in a cup final last season. It's mental how things quickly can turn, but I think his comments are fair. I think he knows it's been a learning curve, but It's what they do next season now, assuming they get back there again, because they cannot be any worse than they have been this season. And you've mentioned it again. Dave's mentioned it as well. It's how you get beat. It's can you be competitive? Can you show that intensity? And Rangers just didn't have that. And I think Ali McCoy's mentioned as well the day that they didn't have enough intensity in their game. And I think he's right. You know, when you're at home, whether you're Hearts, Rangers, Celtic, I don't care who you are, you should be showing intensity in every game at home. You need to take the game. You need to take the game to the opposition. I don't think Rangers have done that in pretty much all the games this season.
And now they've got a very difficult game back to the league on Sunday against St Johnstone away.
Yeah, me and Dave mentioned this on Sunday on our show. That could potentially be a big game. You know, St Johnstone gave Celtic a tough game a few weeks ago, and it needed a last minute goal. It needed a last minute goal from Jack Giakoumakis to win the game. So, and St Johnstone have come out a bit of form. You know, Stevie May's scoring goals, Nicky Clark's been a good signing. So a St Johnstone side that I thought at the start of the season were going to be in massive trouble, you know, could potentially be a top 6 team this season. So this is no means a given. This is going to be a tough game. And again, the thing for Rangers is they're losing goals. You know, they lost a goal against Aberdeen on Saturday. They lost 3 goals tonight. They're conceding too many goals. And a team that's got Stevie May in it, who's scoring goals against this Rangers back line, Stevie May could have a field day here. So it's a very difficult game. I mean, I would think Rangers will win it. But on the back of this European night, it's going to be a very difficult game.
Do you think that Johnson and Cam Davison will be rubbing the hands because that they know that they've came up again, they've got beat tonight again, but also not picking up any wins in the Champions League, and the confidence will be going downhill?
Well, to be honest, I thought if any team was going to rub the hands, it was Aberdeen on Saturday, and look what happened to them. But I think at McDermott Park, it'll be a very difficult game. You know, it's a tough ground to go to. They will give you a hard game. So, and as I say, Stevie May's in form, Nicky Clark's been a good signing, Ryan McGowan, the ex-Jambos in the team. So it's a potential difficult game. Probably one of the places you don't want to go just now on the back of a really poor result. So I think if you're Davidson, you just got to say, be competitive, get in their faces, put challenges in, make it hard for them. You know, don't sit off. Because if you sit off Rangers, they could punish you. So it's such a tough game. I mean, I think St Johnstone will give them a really hard game. And I will say this now, if Rangers were to get beat or drop points, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, because you've only got 2 games to go before the World 2 games to go before the World Cup as well. So, you know, not like, I don't think you see any manager losing their job, but I mean, if it comes to it, you know, that's a perfect opportunity because you've got a wee window there before the next game as well. And then, am I right in saying that they play Hearts next Wednesday night as well?
They do Ibrox. Oh my God, I hate going through to Glasgow, whether it's Celtic or Rangers. I know what's going to happen. But this is a chance for Hearts because after tomorrow, like Celtic and Rangers, we don't have any more European games to play. So that's probably a good thing. We could just concentrate on the league after this. So that might be a good thing. But we play Motherwell on Sunday. Now, I know we're not talking about Hearts just now, but for me, we've got Istanbul on Thursday. We're already out. The game on Sunday against Motherwell is a bigger game. I wouldn't be risking a lot of those players on Thursday. I'd be playing a weakened team and getting our full strength as we can for Sunday. And then go again at Ibrox next Wednesday because we could give Rangers a tough game if Robin Nielsen goes for it and doesn't sit back. So Rangers have got difficult games coming up, potentially. So by the time they go to the World Cup, they could be quite a few points behind a Celtic side at the moment, and I use this word quite a lot, are relentless. Now, I thought Livingston was going to be a tough game for Celtic on Sunday because it usually is at the Tony Macaroni, or the Spaghetti Had, as folk call it. And Celtic were comfortable. You know, they were very, very impressive. So Rangers don't want to be going into those World Cup more than 3 or 4 points behind, or it could be very difficult to call that back. And again, you're looking at, was it yesterday or the day before that Celtic are already signing somebody else? So
yeah, it was Monday,
Yeah, we're not even at the winter deadline yet, and already Celtic go to strengthen. So they're just going to get stronger. And this could potentially be a very difficult period for Van Bronckhorst. I'm interested when the transfer window opens in January, what they're going to do, because, you know, Dave spoke about Ross Wilson. I think Rangers need probably 4 or 5 more new signings to compete with Celtic. And at the moment, I don't know where that's coming from.
And I would put in there a goalkeeper as well, because McGregor did get on the sign a 1-year deal.
I think it was a 1-year deal, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, good thing back to about 6 weeks ago, Graham, we were getting our sidekicks saying, yep, we're doing shows Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for Celtic, Rangers and Hearts, our sidekick, and we've just come on the show every time there's been the game on, and we've not had a lot of positives to talk about. Hearts winning twice, but for, as I keep saying, Edinburgh 2, Edinburgh 2, Glasgow now in terms of the in terms of the spoils. But I mean, disappointing all about all the European games.
I might just do a one-man show for the next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday slots just to do something else. No, it's been a huge letdown. But as I keep saying, you look at the quality that they're playing against. They are playing against really good sides, but you've got to be competitive. Hearts, okay, we have won 2 games, but I'm not going to lie, they weren't particularly great team. RFS, we beat them twice, but you can only beat what's in front of you.
Yeah,
the other games were disappointing against Besiktas and Fiorentina. So we've got a lot to learn as well. If we get back to this again next season, we've got a lot to learn. Robbie's got a lot to learn. Otherwise, there'll be flags getting flown and planes getting flown again. But it's been a hugely disappointing campaign for Scottish teams in Europe. And I just hope that next season it's going to be better, because I really hate doing these shows after a Scottish team's got beat. Because it's disappointing, because we want to fly the flag for Scottish football. And unfortunately, these results really don't help. Now, I know everyone's got their own vested interest. Celtic fans care about Celtic, Rangers fans care about Rangers, I care about Hearts and stuff, but you want to see all the Scottish teams do well in Europe. Maybe not Hibs, but you want to see all the Scottish teams do well in Europe. So it's a massive letdown, but next season, you've just got Van Bronckhorst talking about they need to be better next season. Every Scottish team does. Because I don't want to be sitting here again next season talking about exactly the same things again, because it's disappointing.
How can Rangers bounce back from here in terms of in the Champions League? Obviously, they've got to qualify for, I don't know, as a winner split into the Champions League again, or was that a one-off, a special deal? I'm not sure.
I'm hoping it's a buy one, get one free. You never know.
But yeah, exactly. But I mean, what areas in the park do you think Rangers would have to? I know you take 4 or 5 players, but whereabouts would you say that they have to buy strength and depth if they want to go to the last 16 or even further in the Champions League? I know it's a big if because it's a long way off, but I mean, it can't be as bad as this season, Graham.
Centre back, right back, left back, midfield, winger, striker. Nah, I'm only joking.
You may as well say a whole new team.
We get some cheap deals at IKEA. No, I mean, it's probably midfield. I just think midfield, Ajax's midfield tonight was very impressive. As I say, I like Alvarez. I thought he looked a really good player. Stephen Davis, I love Stephen Davis as a player, but he's getting on a bit. He's not going to be there forever. Again, Tillman, I think, did okay. Arfield, you know what you're going to get with Arfield. He's into the penalty. He's into the box late, makes good runs. And, Glenn Kamara came off the bench, and I thought he did okay again, but I think midfield needs strengthened. I think up front, Čolak is their best striker for me by an absolute mile. I know folk will say Morelos, but for me, Čolak's been very impressive. So I think, and Dave's mentioned it as well, Ryan Kent, he blows hot and cold numerous times. And in Champions League games, you can't really do that. European games, you've got to be on it every time because you're playing against much better teams. So I think Rangers do need to strengthen in certain areas, but probably mainly defensively. Because I think as good as James Sands and Leon King are for the Premier League, they're not really going to be good enough for the Champions League. So they need to be better next season. But the question is, will Van Bronckhorst get the Champions League next season? Because if results don't change, you never know what could happen.
No, exactly. I mean, Do you think that they are missing Bassey's a big loss, but also that the name escapes me as well. He's played for Southampton. He used to be,
yeah, Joe Aribo.
yeah. Do you think he's a big loss as well, Grim?
Ah, that's a good point. Actually, that's one of the very few good points you make on the show.
That's right.
That's all right. I've got to talk you up somehow. No,
That's why I had the day off the other day just to think of that name. But I still couldn't remember the name, but I could remember the team.
I'm impressed. Well done. No, I think he's been a really big miss. I've watched him a few times for Southampton, and he's been very impressive. Again, he's just kind of carried on that Rangers form for Southampton. He's looking to get on the ball, make things happen. And I think he has been a massive miss because Rangers haven't really had that in the Champions League this season. So I think it's been a huge miss. But you need your big players to perform. You know, Ryan Kent is a big player. He's not performed. I think there's been 30 others haven't performed. As I say, I think Rabbi Matondo came off the bench today and gave a bit of pace that Rangers didn't really have. And, you know, as I said earlier, Cholak, I like him. He's a very good player, but he didn't get a lot of chances tonight. So it's just a very frustrating night for Rangers. And, you know, next season is going to be Van Bronckhorst talks about a learning curve. But will they get time to get that learning curve? Because if results continue where they are, you know, the Aberdeen game on Saturday, they played well. But was that more a case of Aberdeen were very poor more than Rangers being really good? It is a huge thing next season.
I don't know about you, Graham, but I saw the first half on Saturday, and obviously Rangers had a job to do, and they went out and done it. But I thought it was a poor Aberdeen team on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I said to Dave on Sunday's show that Jim Goodwin talked the talk but couldn't walk the walk. You know, he talked Aberdeen up and said, you know, we're going to have a really good go here. We're going to be competitive. And for probably 10, 15 minutes, they were. And obviously, they got the goal. They were 1-0 ahead. And you think, right, what are they going to do now? And then Rangers just dominated. You know, that 36 attempt Rangers. Aberdeen were very poor. And obviously, Jim Goodwin's gone back with his tails between his legs. So it was a huge letdown for Aberdeen because I genuinely thought, and obviously, we're in a couple of different group chats, and Aberdeen fans in those group chats were very positive, and I can see why, because this was an Aberdeen side that were going on form, and they just let themselves down completely. It was a poor performance. Yes, Rangers played well, but they were allowed to. And then you look at Rangers tonight against a better side, and they weren't allowed to do that. So that just shows the differences in these performances.
Do you think as well that going back to tonight's game and looking ahead to Sunday's game, obviously we'll speak about it on the show on Friday, but do you think that Rangers will be glad that they're away from home instead of at home because you don't want 50,000 to be on your back if there's a bad pass or another goal given away or a cheap goal given away? I mean, that could still happen at St Johnstone because Rangers take a big support to McDermott Park, but you know, I just feel as though Ibrox you're under. Well, I was going to say the spotlight, but the game's on the TV, so you can't really get a bigger spotlight than that. But yeah, I mean Rangers will be glad that the game's away from home, not Ibrox.
Yeah, probably, and I don't want to be disrespectful to St Johnstone, but you always find out that Celtic and Rangers tend to fill out McDermott Park more than St Johnstone's fans do anyway. Yeah. So they'll still have a big crowd there anyway, and if Rangers aren't doing well, those fans will let them know. And I just think Rangers, I mean, the thing for me is, if Rangers were to concede the first goal, could they come back from that? Now, that would be the thing for me, because this is St Johnstone's side at the moment that they are on decent form. You know, they went to Easter Road, they won 2-1. They've won last week. They're on decent form just now. So if they could get the first goal, you know, would Rangers be able to come back from that? So that would be the thing I want to see. Have they got the guts to come back? If Rangers were to score the first goal, they probably will win the game by 2 or 3. But it's always that first goal that I just think is going to be crucial. And St Johnstone, if they can get it, I've got something to hang on to or build on. So it's going to be important. And yeah, I mean, if Rangers don't start that game well, those Rangers fans will let the team know McDermott Park or Ibrox, it doesn't matter. They'll let the team know. So this is a big game. because you've got to assume that Celtic win their game against United on Saturday. So they're going into that game even further behind. So it's going to be a huge test.
Yeah, no, exactly. And of course, we'll be on Sunday after the game, looking back at that game and also the other games as well. Just to let you know, we'll be on tomorrow night after the Celtic game. We'll be on quite early actually. Well, just another early 9 o'clock, and on Thursday we'll be on early again. We'll be on at, I can't remember the time offhand, but I'm sure Graham will tell me. 6 o'clock. Well done, Graham. Yeah, I know you've been telling me the times and all that, but my head's so a wee as I say in the West of Scotland, wee motors.
See, I produce the show, so I have to know what time it is.
Yeah, exactly. I just walk up and talk rubbish. But there you go, I've made an opening for you there, Graham. I was expecting to say, aye, you do, Michael. But good.
I'll let you off for that one. It's too late. It's too late in the night. I'll let you off for that one.
Yeah, exactly. Well, for one thing, your life, the group chat as well. So 5 minutes left. You can comment on Twitter at the Locker Room Indie on Twitter, or else if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, you can comment on as well.
I know we're not talking about it, but I just want to bring it up because we are talking about Rangers. I mean, that comment by Graham Souness about Rangers and Celtic sharing a stadium is just ridiculous. Can you imagine that ever happening? Seriously. I mean, honestly.
I never actually heard his comment, Graham.
He basically said that for Rangers and Celtic to compete in Europe, that Rangers and Celtic should share a stadium, which is just, it's never going to happen. I mean, Wallace Mercer tried this with Hearts and Hibs and just got run out of town. Could you imagine that happening in Glasgow? It's just never going to happen. I mean, seriously, Souness.
So, I mean, that's a bit baffling. Like, why did you say that for? You know, he must have been out for a night out, or ate too many kebabs that night, because I'm not sure like where he's getting that from. But yeah, I mean, well seen his miles away, Graham, and coming out with a comment like that.
Well, I mean, I did find it quite funny, but again, I've just mentioned that I don't want to give them airtime because it just annoyed me. But again, I'm sure tonight after this show, we'll see on Talk Sport that these idiots like Jason Cundy and that will be on talking about, Scottish football's terrible. Scottish football's in the gutter. Rangers can get a point. The fact that Jason Cundy and guys like that get any airtime when they had average careers as footballers, won nothing, and they get to talk on a radio channel that's, I could call it something else, but I'm not because it's a family show. But these guys, I mean, seriously, how these guys get airtime to spout absolute nonsense about Scottish football or anything, I wouldn't let these guys talk about tiddlywinks. It's just ridiculous.
I mean, they don't like Scottish football anymore, Graham. And even if Celtic and Rangers and Hearts qualified, they would still find a negative thing to say about Scottish football.
Exactly. I mean, you look at tomorrow, Celtic Real Madrid. If Celtic get beat, which you probably think they will, you'll get these guys again talking about, Scottish football's horrendous. You know, Celtic get hammered, Rangers get hammered. English teams aren't exactly doing that great either. Let's be fair. I mean, these guys, honestly, get airtime to spout nonsense. And listen, fair enough to get clickbait, folk listen to them. I personally don't because I think they're a waste of time. But that's why I like doing this show, because I get to talk rubbish with you. It's great.
Yeah, we can talk rubbish together, and we can talk about Scottish football, a good platform, because nobody else gives it the way that we do it, Graham, on Indie Live Radio and Independence Live. See what I dig there.
100%. That's why we love doing this show. It's great. Love it.
No, exactly. So thanks for joining us tonight, Graham. I would say thanks to Dave, but I don't know where Dave went.
I think he's got back to his bed.
Yeah, exactly. Or I was away for pie, I'm not sure. But we'll be back tomorrow night after the Celtic game, Real Madrid at 9 o'clock, and then on Thursday night as well. So my thanks to Graham and Dave, and we'll see you tomorrow night after the Celtic game at 9 o'clock.
It's Champions League time once again, and you can catch up with what's been happening in the games by tuning in to the Locker Room Specials on Indie Line Radio